If you've ever wanted to make a living doing music, but you don't know how to go from where you are today to where you want to be, you feel like there's an entire piece missing to the puzzle, you're going to love today's video. Hey friends, Graham here from therecordingrevolution.com, and recently I got to sit down with Ivan Corraliza, who goes by the name Ill Factor. He's a talented producer, engineer, songwriter, and mixer based out of Miami, Florida. The guy's worked with Justin Timberlake, Timbaland, Sia, Kelly Rowland, Natasha Bedingfield, the list goes on and on and on. He's a super humble guy, and he was open enough to share his story, how he broke through in the business, and how things have changed since he even got started 16 years ago, and how someone like you can actually make a living in today's musical landscape, a day when everything is turned on its head and all the old axioms of the way you make a living, the way music is bought, sold, and distributed, the way artists and fans interact, all of that has been changed, and he's got his pulse on what's working and what's not working. We talk about how to seek mentorship, how to interact with people that are steps ahead of you if you ever come across guys where you want to be where they are, the power of generosity, the power of the human connection or nurturing relationships, all these things that are as equally accessible to you as the next person. Ivan gets it. He understands that humility and generosity go a long way in this business, things that I have seen to be proven true in my own life, and I cannot wait for him to share it with you. So sit back and enjoy this interview with the one and only Ivan Corraliza. Hey friends, Graham here from therecordingrevolution.com, and I am so thrilled to present to you one of my newer friends, Mr. Ill Factor himself, Ivan Corraliza, but he told me to say Corraliza.
Corraliza.
I'm a white guy, so I don't have as much interest in the way I pronounce it. But Ivan goes by Ill Factor. He's a producer, he's a musician, he's an engineer. He's worked with everybody from, we were talking about Daniel Bedingfield, Natasha Bedingfield, Justin Timberlake. He's worked with a lot of people in the industry. He's had a really, really cool career for a young guy. He's a family man. He loves music, and he's got a great story. And we connected recently. He had some kind things to say about what I was doing at the Recording Revolution, and I was blown away by some of the work he's doing and also the type of person he is. So as I bring people on my channel, it's because they're people that are really, I think they're quality human beings, and he's got a great story to share with you. And we want to talk about making it in the music industry. We want to talk about sort of working on your own productions. We want to talk about some myths about what a lot of musicians think it takes to get noticed, to make it big, to make a break, and give you some practical things to think through, and just encourage you a little bit today. So Ivan's got an amazing bunch of resources we'll talk about a little bit later on his site that you should definitely check out, especially if you're an Ableton user. The guy uses Ableton, so I know I never give you that. I know a lot of you Ableton users out there. So Ivan, thanks for hanging out with us, man, and just chatting for a bit.
Yeah, no problem. First off, I want to say thank you. I'm a big fan of everything you're doing and all the support that you're giving, not just to people who are discovering the process of making music, but you're really, and I'm just saying from all the feedback that people are giving you, that you're really actually liberating a lot of people from the frustrations of making music on their own. And kudos to you. Kudos to everything you're doing. Graham is awesome. You know, he beat me in a breakdancing competition, so that's how this whole thing started. No, I'm just kidding. But yeah, man, so I'm just really excited about everything you're doing as well. And thanks for having me on board. Excited to chat, man.
No, absolutely. So two things that we definitely have in common. One is that we're both from Florida, which is great because no one seems to be from Florida in the music industry. They're like,
No one's
Florida?
repping it. Yeah,
why do you live in Florida?
Yeah, especially Miami. Well, Miami has kind of like become this like destination, wedding spot thing for studios, right? It's or for people to work in. You've got like, you've got New York, L.A., Nashville, and some Miami. And Miami always ends up being like, well, let's take a vacation and record an album at the same time. So let's go to Miami.
Yeah.
So, and I got nothing but love from my Tampa peeps.
Thank you.
I love you guys up in Tampa. But yeah, so Miami, we kind of capitalized on that. But and the good thing is on the electronic dance side, you know, it's almost become a worldwide capital for electronic music. It's kind of been this gateway to the U.S., not only from the South Americas, but, you know, the whole world looks at Miami and says, oh, dance, ultra music festival, we got it. We know Winter Music Conference, so you know that's slowly approaching in the next month or so. So it gets kind of crazy during that time.
That's awesome. So how would you describe the music that you prefer to work on? Would you say it's electronic dance? Would you say it's hip hop? What would you say is your thing?
Yeah, I started off in high school producing music. I knew from an early age I always had a passion for music. I wanted to someday write and create my own music, and that led me. And I started playing trombone, bass, electric triangle. No one really liked that one though. Um, but I started getting into the process of like making my own music. I bought my first drum machine while I was still in high school, and this is way before YouTube. I just started learning, being inspired by a lot of electronic artists at that time, which are like the Crystal
Oh
Method,
yeah.
Prodigy, Josh Wink. So I started producing drum and bass and
Yep.
getting involved in the local Miami DJing scene here. Um, that's where my mind was at, and that's where my passion is at. We're making music. It wasn't until I like bumped into a couple guys who were in the industry who were looking for that type of sound. At this time, like Madonna was about to release some new music that was very influenced with electronica and things like that. And people were starting to branch out. And I was able to link up with people who were like, hey, we're kind of looking for that kind of sound. I'm like, well, all right, cool. And once I got a taste for like the pop production side, I was like, wow, this is great. This felt like home, fusing the two, you know. And so I'm very influenced by guys like Massive Attack,
Oh yeah.
Prodigy, um, and those guys. And then I'm also very influenced by like Max Martin and all
Right.
the success he's had and everything that goes into writing great songs. So I was always attracted by that. I never wanted to be like, oh, dude, you know, it's all about underground, you know, keep it. I was
Right.
always like, nah, like I always had this thing to writing great songs, and how can I even do that in the electronic space that I was in? So
No, that
yeah.
makes total sense. So, what is a project that you're working on right now that you're really excited about?
Well, right now, I've got a record, and this is actually tying into the last question, electronic. I've got a record that I wrote with Sia, fantastic, amazing, talented writer and
Yeah.
singer and artist. And so I've got a record that we actually did a while back that's currently going to be released with another artist named Kygo, Kygo. He's blowing up right now, and you know, introducing tropical house. So I've got a record. It's called Oasis, and it's going to be featuring the artist Mo, or Mo/O. She's the one that sung on that record with
Oh,
Diplo and
oh
Major
yeah.
Lazer. Um, Lean On. She sang the Lean On. So
Oh yeah, yeah.
she's gonna be the featured artist, and so that I'm excited about. I've got that coming out in March on Kyo's album, and I think right now we're talking about with the label if that's going to be the next single. So that's going back and forth. But I'm working with, surprisingly, a lot of like just independent artists and that are just seeking out some development and being like, hey, listen, you know, I'd love to work with you and get some production done. So I've got a lot of that. But I'm also doing video game stuff. I've been working really closely with Ubisoft in the past couple of things. I did this thing with Assassin's Creed recently. I produced an original soundtrack for them, and now they're bringing me on board to do stuff with their game Just Dance. So I'm excited about
That's
that.
awesome.
That was like the dream. Like
That's awesome.
I remember like playing NES and just like
Oh,
rocking out to Zelda theme music.
oh
I'm like,
yeah.
this is what I want to do one day, and
And
it's awesome.
now
It's
it's
been
a
awesome.
reality. Yeah.
So that, and that's what I've got going on. So it's been really excited about that.
So you've got an interesting. You get to do interesting work. You get to use your production chops, use music, use all that stuff, and not in just in music, but in video games as well, which is in massive video games. How how do you get to that point? Like that's what the people that are watching this want to know.
Mm.
Okay, I'm not doing what Ivan's doing. I'm not ill factor yet, man. Like how do I get those artists, or how am I getting a call from Ubisoft? How am I getting on Assassin's Creed? Obviously, no one is a overnight success. That usually those take 20 years to develop, the overnight successes. But can you maybe walk us through what were the maybe inflection points for you in your journey that really were like that pushed that forward, that opened that door? What was it like?
Yeah, well, for just 5 easy payments and one really hard payment, YouTube. No, I mean like, yeah, it was. You know what? There was a lot of frustrations and struggles I had at the very beginning. Things that every aspiring musician, artist, DJ has, and those are everything from the technical, like you know, struggling to get my music to sound the way I wanted to. And this is like once again back before I can just dial up on YouTube really quick. Oh, how to make a Skrillex bass line. Oh, that's how you do it. And you know, it was just like, okay, School of Hard Knocks. Let me figure these things out. And so it required a huge discipline. So I was actually really blessed that I didn't have the instant gratification. I had to develop the discipline to like, if I really like the sound of that bass line, I have to figure this out and figure out what it's going to take to get that sound that I want. And it just built a discipline. And I love the fact that we have YouTube, for crying out loud. Here we are, you and I talking, right? Yeah. It's so amazing. And it's such a great gift, but it developed that discipline, but I still struggled with connecting those dots. Like I had no clue how to place my songs, ideas, beats on major projects. I had no idea how to go from making music as a hobby to making a living off of it.
Right.
I couldn't connect those dots, and man, there were nights where I was just frustrated, and there was some hate coming from, I wouldn't say hate, but there was just like that discouragement from family members and friends, like, no, you know, you're wasting your time, you know, there's no real future in music, you know, do something else. I actually did. I went to school for computer programming at first. I hated it because I just not what I wanted to do. So I got very much involved with like, look, I want to just link up. I knew right then and there I had to change my mindset. I had to, like, if I really want this to succeed, I need to either find somebody who is doing this really well, that in my degree of network, just somebody who's at least, if I can't get in touch with Timbaland, at least get in touch with somebody who's making a living or doing something in the music industry that's worthwhile. And what can I do to, you know, take them out to lunch or do whatever I can, buy them, you know, cup of coffee or something, and just sit down like, hey, can I just ask you 3 questions? And then start there and start building a new mindset of how to perceive my hobby as a business. And I was extremely blessed to run into a legendary figure in the industry, Jimmy Douglas. And Jimmy Douglas, I mean, if you guys are not familiar, a most amazing mixing engineer, producer, and a great friend of mine. You know, he's done everything from Aretha Franklin, Foreigner, Rolling Stones. He found Timbaland, Missy Elliott, Genuine, brought them down, recorded them, mixed all their stuff. Timbaland, Magoo, I mean, The Weeknd. It just goes on, right? And so I was desperate, and he just needed some remix work done, and I was like, hey, I make dance music. And instead of like, oh, check out my stuff, it was more like, how can I add value to what you need right now? And I approached it as like, hey, if you ever need some additional production on top of your mixes, because I think that's a cool thing to do, or if you ever need remixes. So I presented some way where I can position myself as a value and serve him in what he was doing. I never intended it like, how can I use him to get where I want to go and go somewhere else? Because at a very, and stop me at any time if I'm rambling.
Oh, no, this is great.
Early on, I was taken advantage of by people like that.
Okay.
I was taken advantage of, you know, people who were signing, you know, hey, sign this or do these things. And I didn't know anything about business. I didn't know how publishing worked. I didn't know how the music industry actually worked.
Sure.
You know, I'll never forget, like, I went into the studio here in Miami. I produced this beat, this track, and the guy's like, "Look, this is how we do business here, man. We give you $500, and then you can kind of go your way." I'm like, I'm not a very brilliant person, but I just know I had my Forrest Gump moment. Not a small my end, but I know you can't make beats like this. You know? So I was like, nah, seems a little weird. But that was the environment that was down here in Miami. That's what was going on. And after a few of those, I was like, you know what? I don't want to be that person. I didn't want to be a person who was just solely looking out for my own interests. And you know what? If nothing comes out of it, great. But at least this person knows that I'm genuinely after helping them out. And that authentic mindset and drive translated. And Jimmy was like, hey, this is great. Why don't I just shoot you a couple things to remix? There's no pay in it. I was like, no worries. I'll just help you out. Did it. And I'll never forget, one day he's like, why don't you come in the studio? And I go in and you see Timbaland there. You see all these guys there. And I'm like, oh, snap. It's like, yeah. You know, this is this guy Ill Factor I was telling you about. And it's like, oh, what up, man? Yeah, I like your stuff. I'm like, I didn't even know you were telling them about me. What's going on?
Awesome.
And it was awesome.
Yeah.
And then at that same time, Timbaland hired this guy named Danger Hands, Nate Hills from Virginia. Mm-hmm. Amazing, talented guy. I was just blown away. And at the same time, so he brought kind of both us. We were just there. We met each other the first time. It was like, hey, man, we were just looking at each other like, so what do we do now? Like, we're in the studio with Timbaland. You know, we're making beats. And long story long, or even longer.
Keep it going.
Yeah, I just stayed close, nurtured that relationship with Jimmy. He brought me under his wing, and I realized how important mentorship was,
Mm,
how important it was to receive the guidance. And I went to school for music. I went
yeah.
to college for music business and music production. And it was funny. At the time I was going to school, my professors knew who I was working with and would tell me, "Hey, listen, here's my demo. Do you mind giving this to
You're
Timberland?" It
like,
was the weirdest thing. I'm sitting in class, the guy
come
knows like
on.
where I'm at, and he kind of like, because he was local, and I'm working with a couple, I'm working with the Street Runners, working with Tim, working with all these guys here in Miami, and I'm letting him know. He's like, "Oh, that's cool." And he's here telling me of publishing, and I'm like, "No, no, that's not how it's really working right now in the real life." And he's like, "Yo, give this demo tape to Timberland, see what he thinks." I'm like, "Yeah, but this is weird. You're okay, sure, whatever." And not to discredit school, not to discredit that
Sure.
environment, it was very helpful. But what it did was it made me realize nothing can ever beat real world guidance and proper mentorship and nurturing that relationship. So, man, I really do credit and thank Jimmy for that and giving me the ability to do that.
Yeah.
And so, you know, I've been making a living off of music for 16 years. I have not had a 9 to 5 for the past 16 years. I've been just living off and providing for my family, my wife, and now 3 boys, 3 crazy, awesome little tornadoes.
Hmm.
And yeah, it's been an absolute blessing to do what I'm passionate about and to make a living off of that. So to answer the question, how do you get here? There's many different things you can do, because where I was 16 years ago is not where everyone else is today with the music industry. There's been a drastic, dramatic change.
Yeah.
And so what I've learned in the process of the 16 years, was developing new strategies. I've kept my finger on the pulse, something that a lot of even major recording artists haven't done yet, because they've
Mm,
gotten so used to the current system.
sure.
Just last week I was talking to Kelly Rowland's team, and they're just like, we're just so used to being signed to a major label, we just don't know what else to do.
Yeah.
And it's scary because we're in the wild, wild west now, and there's never been a greater time than to be successful with your music than today.
Sure.
It's just so true because of the accessibility that we have. We're all on the same level, we're on the same platform. Anybody can, whether it's through Nimblet or DistroKid, you can easily just get your music out there and have the same authority as the Katy Perry record, and then you are on the same distribution platform.
Yeah.
It's so powerful. The problem is, now that the rising tide has leveraged it for everybody else, how do you stand out in this day and age? That's the key element. That's the part that people aren't really grabbing a hold of. Is how do you stand out in the midst of all this? We're still thought in the old mindset of, well, let me just get a major record label. So there's a couple myths, right? That people think that they can only be successful if they end up on radio or get a major record label deal. And I'm one to tell you that that's not true.
I hope people are paying attention. A couple of things were, there's so many things that you can't control, but the things that you did control were, you sought out mentorship. You realized that there's no way I can get from here to where I really want to be just by making it happen. It involves people. People talk to people who know people. So you were active in seeking out people. So the lesson there is to look for people that you can reach out to, people that are a step ahead of you, even if they're not, like you said, they're not the Timbaland where you wanted to be. They were at least a step ahead of you, and that allows you to get to know human beings. And that's where so many of my guys and gals that are watching, I'm always trying to push them to literally get out of their house, like literally leave their home studio, literally maybe leave their city or their state, and go where the people are, even if it's for a conference or even if it's for just going to watch some live music and talking to people in your city. It's scary to talk to human beings, but that's how they get to know who you are. That's how they think about you. So getting out there, meeting people. And then the other thing you said was so huge, Ivan, is that you were so focused on what can I do for Jimmy. I mean, you bump into a Jimmy Douglas, you think like, I don't want to screw this one opportunity up.
Right.
And our instinct is to grab a hold of whatever we can, because it might be your only shot of greatness or connection. So you think you need to milk that relationship, or what do I need out of it, which is the instinct. And ironically, that's the thing that will sink your ship the fastest. People don't like people like that. If you think about it, people like people who are givers, who are generous. And when you're just like, hey man, is there anything I can do for you, Jimmy Douglas? When you know there's really nothing you can do for a guy like Jimmy Douglas, but you ask.
That's true. Yeah, and you're absolutely right. Like, the funny thing was, that day that I met him, Timbaland was with him. and I was at a Sam Ash. I was at a music shop at the time, and there were two. There was myself and somebody else. Somebody else immediately saw Timbaland, recognized who he was, went to him, said, "Yo, check out my beats."
Check out my beats. Yeah.
It's like, you got to check the stuff out. Let me know what you think. It's like, hey, I'm going to a whale and say, you got to check out this water that I'm. It's like, it doesn't. You're going to the beat maestro, and it's like, nah. I could have, I was like, man, here's an opportunity. I knew who Jimmy was. I was like, wow, this is great. And I did that. Like I said, just exactly what you said. I was like, look, if there's anything I could do for you, there's nothing I can bring to the table, obviously.
No.
But hey, I'm here. I'm there. And it so happened that is like, yeah, I'm actually looking for the sample CD that we're trying to use. And I go, I actually have that exact sample CD at my house. You give me a moment. I'll be right back in 5 minutes. Went there, grabbed it. It's like, here it is. It's yours. Take it. And I threw a couple remixes that I normally do on there. If you want to check them out, let me know. I'll be glad to do some remixes stuff for you. Absolutely free. Just let me know how else I can help you out. And then because I picked up on what he says. Like, yeah, I'm mixing, but we're adding something. Like, look, I think it'd be cool if you can add some programmed stuff, So instead of just mixing the track, what if you added some extra programming on there as just a free part of the service? And he's like, that's good value. I'll do that, and the rest is history, man. So,
oh man, it's so good because it's a scary backwards way to think, but I really want everyone listening to see the genius in what Ivan did, even if he maybe wasn't even thinking about it in that moment of. Always look for ways to add value. Those are the words you said, adding value. And even with people that you don't know, there's a way to add value to. Everyone could use value. And that's how the world works. That's how good businesses run. Yeah. They add value. They don't just somehow take people's money. It's really simple. If they add value, people will buy what they have. And the same thing with musicians and producers and working with other people is people, all things being equal. Let's say everyone that's listening is equally talented. Right? Because we can't help your talent level, but a lot of you are very talented. Right. If we're all equally talented, if Timbaland's got a choice to work with any one of you, who's he want to work with? Someone who's all about themselves and all about check out my beat, or someone who's like, hey, what can I do for you, Timbaland? I don't care about me. What can I do for you? Do you need coffee? Do you need me to go to the grocery store for you? Do you need me to pick up your kids? Yeah. Like, all things being equal, we like to work with people that want to take care of us and that we feel like we can trust them, and that's how you do it, is be generous and think about adding value to the other person. Yeah. And if you're having that mindset everywhere you go, even with the people that aren't the Jimmy Douglases, and that's sort of the sneaky thing of the people that the waitress at your table, the guy opening the door to the building, like if you're always just looking for ways to bless and give value to other people, you instantly get connected somehow because people are like, I like that guy, and there's a reason they like that guy.
The way to sum it all up, man, I think the most two powerful words that really will build the right foundation for you to position yourself for success with your music is nurturing relationships. I have to sum it all up to that. It's like, don't take it personal when people are like, your tracks aren't really that great, the songs aren't that. It's not personal. It really, even if you have a nurtured relationship there, it's being built on that. Hey, the track wasn't that great. No problem. I want to hold you to a higher standard. So there's even guys now that I reach out to that hold me accountable. Guys like Zach Katz, the Beluga Heights guy, J.R. Rodham. We work a lot together. Starting to send some ideas for this artist that we're signing. That he's got Kalani, R&B, very talented artist. But I'm always asking him, hey man, here's some stuff. And I love the fact he can come to me and say, on a scale of 1 to 10, it's a 7. It's good, but it's not great. I go, great. I need that, and I need that kind of iron sharpening iron kind of thing. And so that's a really powerful thing. Being able to nurture relationships, do that well. See the power in that, and you'll start to see things happen. Because then, I think the goal doesn't become let me get the multi-million-dollar record deal. It becomes, how do I nurture the small network of people that I have? If you're an artist or musician, one thing I tell them, if you're loyal and faithful with 5 people, you're going to be great with 500 people. Yeah. And you're going to be amazing with 50,000 people. Yeah. But don't think that, I've got 50,000 followers now, and you can't even speak into the life of one person that's following you. It doesn't resonate. And that's what a lot of people today now have to realize. You need a group. You need to develop a tribe. You need to develop a group of diehard people who trust in that relationship that you've built. The day of providing somebody a piece of music in exchange for the dollar or that's over. It's gone. It's like, here's my song, give me your money. That's not. Now people are like, we're gone. We're in a day and age where we want a relationship with you. So now you're providing an experience. It's like, here's my music, it's free anyways, but let's build a bridge so that when you walk over it, I'm giving you like exclusive stuff, exclusive hangout time, things that I only do with, and that's how you nurture relationships. That's how you can build the right fan base that allows you to be successful. Not have the multi-million-dollar record deal, but you can actually literally make a living off of the music that you're making to the nurturing relationships that you're developing. Does that make sense?
Oh, it's huge. Yeah, that's so true. But I think people need to hear that. So let's sink in for a second. That basically the music that you make is no longer the product. It's solely right. That used to be the product.
Right.
And it's unfortunate because that's even what you and I, and we're young guys, we grew up with that. That was our world was, you buy music and it has value. I was at the Pensado Awards, and Chris Lord-Alge comes out wearing the "Music Has Value" T-shirt, and he kept pointing to his "Music has value," and it's so true. And we love music. We all do. We're all music nerds. But what you said was brilliant. That you got to go back to the two things. One, you love making music because you love making music, and you can do that right now. And you don't have to talk to a human being ever, technically. But if what you want is to make a living doing what you love, making music, then that what you just said, Ivan, is huge. That the music is no longer the product. You are the product. And people in this voyeuristic day and age want to know more about you if you're interested. What are you doing? What some background, behind the scenes videos, interviews, some just, like you said, hangout time or Skype calls, or even just the additional stuff that goes around the artist. We like our artists still. We like our musicians, but we want the music itself, like you said, is a gateway, or it's, maybe for me, it's like a YouTube video. A lot of people just watch my YouTube videos. Now, I have in-depth paid courses that some people don't even know I have courses to sell. But most people don't buy anything from me. But they would never hear about me if I weren't making YouTube videos. And I gladly try to make the best YouTube videos in my niche as possible so that it serves people. But I know that putting all my time into making a killer little mix video they put on YouTube, that's not the product anymore. That's what people want. But it costs me a lot to make it.
Yeah.
And I don't get anything in return, technically. I give it away for free, but I understand that to make a living doing what I love, I have to give more than just here's the tutorial. It's got to be more than that. And that is kind of a mind warp for us.
Yeah, it is.
Even in the last 10 years, it's changing. So it's hard for people to let that think.
It's changed dramatically, man. I really want to just kind of piggyback off what you're saying. The industry's changed so much. And so, it's weird because on one hand, I'm working with major recording artists that are in the thick of it. Like, hey, working with the Sia project or whatever it is, and I see the everyday rat race that's going on there. I'm in competition with a million other producers trying to get the next Rihanna single, and so there is that political rat race going on. But on the other hand, I have this other world where independent artists are like, I'd be happy if I can just get 1,000 fans paying $100 throughout the course of a year. That gives me a lifestyle of $100,000 a year, and I go, yeah. Now let's rethink how to do that. And like you're saying, what I tell a lot of the artists, DJs and musicians that I coach and provide exclusive mentoring for, I always tell them, like, what is success to you? And I was like, well, and 9 out of 10 times, I want to make a living off my music. We get that. But a lot of times what they don't realize is they view that through the lens of, I need to be on radio, I need to have a deal, and I need to be heard or done this, and I need 1 million fans to do that. And I go, no, you've got it all wrong. Let's start with the right foundation. Let's build the right mindset and move forward from there. If you just have the right systems in place, you'll understand that what we just talked about, you can now create, hey, my music's free. Yeah, it took some time and energy to do that, but I can make up for it when I create the experience for you. And look, the value, that actually adds more value to the music because now people are like, I love it even more. Let's think about like this whole thing with the video game. I did this song Champion Sound that came out for Assassin's Creed. It's the first time I put it out as myself as an artist because here's the story. That song was originally done for Verizon Wireless Super Bowl last year, right?
Ah, got it.
So Verizon Wireless was like, hey, we've got this campaign, can you do something for our Super Bowl? I did that song literally in the studio that you see behind me here. I just like, oh, here's an idea. That's me on the vocal. That's a dummy scratch vocal because that's one thing I always stress to my students is like, hey, out of necessity, work with what you got.
Yeah.
And you'd be surprised at the results of you just putting down your own vocals. So I put it down, sent it off. They're like, hey, we like it. and you know, typical A&R mode, they're like, it's happy, but we need it sad, and we need it. You know, we wanted to sound like Black Eyed Peas meets Nine Inch Nails meets, you know, Fleetwood Mac. I'm like, what?
Sure,
What is
meets
that?
Johann Sebastian Bach.
Yeah, exactly. I'm like, you guys don't know. Anyways, it didn't work out. I sent it over to a couple people in my at Cobalt, my publishing, and Ubisoft got a hold. It's like, yo, we love this. We want to use it. Who's the artist? Me. Just put it on a Zoe Factor, and it blew up. And here's where I'm getting at: the emotional tie that people had with the game and franchise already elevated the emotional tie they had with me as the artist. So people were going crazy. Who is this? Who is this? What is this? Who's this? There are people from all over the world. People from Russia. Hey, who are you and where do you live? I'm like, whoa, slow down. Yeah. What's going on here? And
That's
I don't
awesome.
know. I've always been producing for other people, and I never once thought, why don't I just become the artist and put out product that way? And this led into nurturing the relationship with them. I was like, hey, this song did great. They were like, we're surprised how well the song did. It's like past 2 million plays or whatever. And we're like on Spotify and it's doing great. And I was like, look, let me nurture this relationship. How about if I wrote a whole soundtrack for you guys, all on me? Don't worry about it. Let me just build on that. And that's what led me to going, hey man, you're coming to us, helping us out with some stuff we need help with. How about you just work on another video game for us? And we're like,
Of course. Oh,
okay.
I love it.
So that's what I'm talking about. Like, but I became the artist and I put this thing in place where now I want to add value. It's like, here's the music, here's this thing. So one thing I started doing was inviting people to do like a contest. I was like, hey, use my song, do a montage, you know, run around in your backyard, whatever you want, add my song. And at the end of the month, I'm going to pick somebody as a contest. What that did was it generated more user generated content.
There you go.
So more and more people were using the song, and YouTube had all these videos with the song on it. And my admin company was like, hey, there's people using your song, so we're going to collect on the royalties for that. So there's people think I need to get signed to be successful. Right now we're in a while where there's so many ways to be successful. You just have to flip the switch, change the mindset, and rethink how you're doing, how you treat your music as the business that you want to be in.
Oh, I love that. I love that. As we kind of wrap up here,
Drop the mic. I'm gonna just drop the mic and walk out.
As we wrap up here, can we just get some like quick little facts? Maybe people be interested. What kind of setup are you working on? You work in Ableton. What kind of tools and setup do you like to use?
Awesome. Yeah. So let's get to the nitty gritty.
The nitty gritty.
Yes. Well, I've been using Ableton for a long time, since version 5. I started using Cubase, but I was like, I just need a program that'll load. Me and Danger Hands used to have an MPC 4000, and we would you just use the DAWs just to load plugins, trigger them, and record it on each pad on the MPC.
Got it.
And so I was sequencing completely on hardware.
Got it.
And then Ableton just came out with version 5, and I was like, oh, let me check it out. And I was like, oh, this is awesome. This is great. So I started slowly leaving hardware and integrating just completely solely on Ableton Live. So I've been using it for a while. I produce all my pop records on it, and I've been forcing myself. This is a challenge I gave to myself like 2 or 3 years ago. I want to mix completely in there, because before I would produce in Ableton and then bounce stems to Pro Tools.
Yeah.
And because I was working with like labels who were sending it to Tony Maserati and Jimmy would mix it. Obviously, the standard was like, give us the Pro Tools session. I was like, well, let me print the stems. So I'm all Ableton. I'm all in box now. I'm all, you know. Let me start from the top down. So interface, I'm using the Focusrite Claret, the new Claret series that came out, the Thunderbolt. Loving it. It's awesome. Really great, because the preamps have the
air button, right?
The air button, the ISA, amazing. It's like to the T, exactly like the ISA. So I use that. My vocal chain is real simple. I've got a 7th Circle Audio Neve 1072 replica preamp. So here I've got a couple mics, everything from like a Rode NT1. The one I'm actually really loving right now is the Studio Electronics, the SE.
Which one is it?
Hold on. It's the 2200 Mark II.
Oh, yeah.
Awesome mic. I was blown away, and for the best, you know, it was for the dollar amount. I was like, this is amazing. So I've been using that for now, but everything from like the Baby Blues, Neumanns, and things like that. But so yes, mic to that, a little just a little compressor, RNC compressor, or sometimes the 1176, and into the Ableton. So yeah, I'm all in Ableton. Virtual stuff, I love all the UAD stuff, all the Universal Audio UAD cards. I'm using all the plugins. The 1176 hands down is probably my best compressor plugin to use. I use that on a lot of things, if not everything. But I mean, what else? Software, I guess, like software plugins like synths and stuff like that.
Yeah, because a lot of the guys are creating dance music and electronic music. They always want to know what kind of virtual instruments I recommend. And I don't use many because it's not the style I work in.
Yeah, Massive is probably at the forefront of what I'm using. Massive is huge. It's a big thing. It's so flexible in shaping stuff. Here's what I recommend. If it's that a lot of people ask me like, why don't you do those in-depth tutorials tweaking Massive? Look, man, it ain't broke, don't fix it. I would say 80% of the time, I'm sampling great sounding one-shot synths, like bam, and all these little cool things. Sounds great. I bring it into Ableton Simpler, and I just use that. And people are like, why? I was like, because I don't want to spend. Here's my scenario. I'm in the room. Let's say I'm in the room with a Kelly Rowland and another songwriter. Am I really going to have them sit through me tweaking a Massive for 20, 35 minutes?
Yeah.
He's like, no, wait. Hold on, just stay still.
It's almost perfect.
It's almost perfect. No, it's like
there's no time for that.
Get it sounding, get a good sound, start there, and that's half the battle, and write a great song. That's it.
That's awesome.
I'm a big, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. So a lot of times I'll just find these great sounds, buy sample packs, go to places and, hey, this stuff sounds great already. Great, use it. Because you know what? At the end of the day, the guy on the other side of the laptop doesn't know and doesn't care.
No.
They're like,
Thank you for saying that.
I wonder if that was a Massive preset. No, it's like, hey, it's a smash hit record. So, I've got guys who, people don't realize that sometimes like these big records have been made with just like these, $20 sample packs, and they're like putting it together. So I'm a big thing with that. I use like great sounding sounds to begin with, both drums and synths, and I just go there. And rarely I'll just jump to Massive, Silent, and BF expansion stuff. So,
oh, that's awesome. That's great. That's helpful. I know that you've got a ton of resources on your site at illfactormusic.com. You got blog articles. You got resources there. These are podcasts that you do. Mm-hmm. So I want people to go there, check it out. I'll definitely link to it in the video. illfactormusic.com. But one thing that Ivan does, which is not really open to everybody, but he has this thing called the Breakthrough Artist Experience. And it's like an intensive 6-week mentorship with Ivan, which is really, really cool. So there's regular Skype calls, there's mentorship. You're working on the craft and the art and all of that together. So it's even more hands-on, more exclusive. So he said like 5 to 6 guys that can fit in that.
Here's the first. Now, I've been doing this in Miami for the past 2 years. I've had like these boot camps here in Miami in which I do live face-to-face classes, and I'd hold them for like exclusive like 6 to 7 people or 8 people depending. But this is the first time I'm actually open it up to worldwide. Awesome. Where I'm going to actually do it virtually because I love it. I've just had this passion to see people reach their dreams and their goals with their music. So I'm so excited about that. And this is my Breakthrough Artist Experience allows me to just be in your ear for 6 weeks, help you through some of the struggles and barriers that you're just having a hard time getting through. And that could be anything with like, getting my music to sound the way I want it to, or how do I market my music effectively? How do I create a diehard fan base? So that's intertwined, as well as I'm looking for a production team.
Mm-hmm.
Here's the deal. I'm stretched thin with projects. I've got so much things on my plate. So I'm looking for people to be like, okay, I'm working on the next Rihanna thing. So here's your chance to get your foot in the door with this project. So they get added to my private Facebook group that gets first dibs on a lot of things that I'm working on. So it's awesome. really cool opportunity. They could go to the website. I'm actually going to do a free training next week. I don't know when you're going to post this up, but I'm going to do a free training. They can go to illfactormusic.com/live webinar. And they can always check up when I do a live training session that'll have more information about that experience. But yeah, it's anywhere from 5 to 6 people, very exclusive. And I'll do them, a couple times a year. But I like that because I want to focus on who it is that I'm speaking to, and we get to hold each other accountable. So it's a great opportunity for that, and it's going to be the first time I do it. So I'm excited about it. and we'll see what happens. I've been getting great results with the people live when I do
Oh
it
yeah,
live,
oh, I'm sure.
and it's been amazing. So like, let's take this. Let's go worldwide.
Let's go worldwide. Globo Gym. No,
Yeah,
I love it.
that's awesome.
Dude,
I haven't heard somebody say that in a long time.
Ivan, I appreciate it. This is great. I hope that this conversation has encouraged a lot of people in some very specific ways. Getting out there and meeting people, asking for mentorship, sitting down with someone for coffee, and you do that by offering to serve them. What can I do for you? And not taking advantage of them, but offering yourself to them, ironically, even though you don't feel like you're in a position to offer. Busting your butt, being open to opportunities that come your way, even things like your song for Verizon that you put all this into a song that seemed like a great opportunity, but it didn't work out, and yet that was used somewhere else that led to other opportunities. So a lot of cool things about Ivan's story. I hope people have caught that, and also just I love your approach, your setup. You're very much like, let's do things with excellence, but at the same time we've got to move and we got to get stuff out, and we can't
Yeah.
obsess over the small details and miss an entire forest for this one branch on this one musical tree that has to be just right. So you
Yeah.
touched on a lot of things that I think are helpful if people let it sink in. I appreciate you taking time out of your day. If you
My
want to
pleasure.
check out Ivan's stuff, go to illfactormusic.com. Check out all the free resources. Get on his mailing list. Get on the updates of when he's doing his live webinars, and maybe even be able to join the Breakthrough Artist Experience. And I just wish you all the best with your career, man.
Thanks,
You're
man.
you're a talented guy. You're an even better human being, and I'm honored to being able to get to know you a little bit more. And I will continue to be praying for you and your family, and excited for what you got going on.
Awesome, man. Likewise, dude. Keep doing what you're doing. You're inspiring so many different people all over the world. Love it. And I'm here to serve you, man. You let me know what I can do for you. All right. So
Likewise, man. Have an awesome rest of your day, Ivan.
you too, brother.
Thanks,
Take
bud.
care.